I've been a correctional officer in Fayette County for the last 10 years. I've had the occasion to deal with Mr. Doneghy several times in the last decade. Mr. Doneghy usually comes to us in a drug-fueled rage, with threats to kill our families and spitting on anyone close enough to hit. He is violent and non-compliant. Normally an offender sobers up and calms down. Unfortunately for us, once Mr. Doneghy sobers up, his violent and non-compliant behavior does not improve. Mr. Doneghy routinely tells staff that we are dead men when he gets out, and that our families will be dead once he gets a hold of them. His language oftentimes becomes cruel, peppered with threats of sexual violence and risk to our personal safety once he gets out of jail. One of Mr. Doneghy's favorite threats is a promise to physically harm or kill our children. This type of behavior has been consistent in the 10-year period I've been dealing with Mr. Doneghy. His repeated behavior leads me to believe that he feels it acceptable to treat people like common trash. On April 29, 2010, with the death of Brian Derman, Mr. Doneghy made good on his many promises of violence over the last decade. His promises to end the life of one of our fellow brothers in blue. With the completion of this promise, Mr. Doneghy brought home a very real fear for every law enforcement officer and their families. The fear that someday you may not come home. Your law enforcement family is sometimes closer to you than your own family. You see them more than your own family, and you are mutually vested in each other's safety. They have experienced traumatic events with you that no one else can understand. That night, Brian became the one that we were unable to protect. That night, everyone from the graduating recruit to the seasoned officer and retired veteran thought, this could have been me, and this could have been my family. This thought was violently sown into their minds and the minds of every peace officer across the Commonwealth. When one of us is harmed or killed, we feel shame. I failed to protect one of my own. Guilt. I was supposed to protect them, and grief. He's not going home. As a law enforcement officer, your deepest fear is one, that you fail to protect your family, and two, that you fail to protect your brother in blue. On April the 29th, 2010, I was attacked on both fronts. My name is Eva, and I am Brian's twin sister. Mr. Doneghy violently ended one of the most significant relationships of my life. For the next 18 months, I found myself taking on the dual roles of helping my friends and family and co-workers to deal with their traumatization caused by Mr. Doneghy's actions. I'm beginning to lock down my emotions about this event because I had a job to do. I went to work every day, knowing that I was never more than a few hundred feet from the man who had murdered my twin brother. I remained professional and offered support to people who needed to talk. For 18 months, Mr. Doneghy was held in my facility while awaiting sentencing and trial and sentencing. With every attempt that Mr. Doneghy's attorneys made to place blame on my brother, I held fast. I knew Brian, and I knew the man he was, and this was not his fault. I was forced to delay my grievance process, being in such close proximity to Brian's killer. I felt there would be a better time and place for my emotions. Finally, the trial drew to a close, and Mr. Doneghy was convicted and transported to prison. So began the ordeal of handling the issues that Mr. Doneghy had created for me, issues that involved grief and its physical manifestations. How do I stop being a twin? Will things ever go back to normal? Will I ever get over this? The answers I have discovered to these questions are no. You never stop being a twin. You don't stop having the needs to share your experiences with your twin. No, things will never go back to normal. You have to learn the inner workings of the new normal and adjust, or it will eat you alive. No, you will never get over this. It is something I am forced to relive every time I put on a uniform, every time I need to tell my twin something, and every time I need the comfort from Brian that I can no longer take. This is my new normal, forced on me by Mr. Doneghy. Growing up, Brian and I were always together. We shared every heartache, joy, and hope for our future. I relied on Brian. He was my confidant and advisor. We spoke our own twin language, and we could often have an entire conversation with just facial expressions. Brian always had a very strong sense of right and wrong, and there were no gray areas. Brian could not stand to see someone being preyed upon and would intervene where others would not. I watched joyfully as my brother grew into the man I'm so proud of. If there was a need, my brother answered the call. During high school, Brian became aware of suffering in a foreign country. Giving up his summer, he followed a mission group to rebuild things torn apart by violence and care for the needs of the affected. Brian always answered the call to protect those in need. In 2001, Brian decided he needed to do something for his country and joined the Air Force. That separation was hard on me, and I missed the comfort of seeing and speaking to my brother on a daily basis. When you've spent your entire life bouncing everything you do off your twin, their absence makes you anxious. After joining the Armed Forces, I was stationed in Texas and Brian in England. I can remember eagerly awaiting news from my brother. Every Sunday without fail came a phone call. I could hear his voice and I knew everything was okay. My anxiety would subside. My brother was a constant and loving force in this world. Foreign countries and war could not separate our bond. Imagine my horror when a violent offender I had come in contact with on a regular basis did. Upon leaving the Air Force, Brian joined the Lexington Police Department. It seemed a natural progression from everything I knew about my brother. It wasn't enough to be a police officer. My brother wanted to be the best. If someone put an hour into preparation, Brian put in 2 and did so with joy and enthusiasm. He stayed late, went in early, and jumped at every opportunity to improve himself and become better at what he did. Brian enjoyed helping and protecting the citizens of Lexington. He was a born peacemaker. Brian avoided confrontation when possible, but implemented it when necessary. Brian was just a few short years into realizing his dreams. I've watched my family be traumatized by this event and attempt to cope with this loss. How do you cope with the loss of a truly good and loving person? An officer taken for no other reason than he was wearing a uniform and Mr. Doneghy had a whim. Mr. Doneghy has yet to admit guilt or apologize. He believes he has done nothing wrong. If Mr. Doneghy sees nothing wrong with his actions from April the 29th, 2010, what stops him from repeating this behavior again? There is no doubt Mr. Doneghy will have a next victim, but who will it be? An innocent child caught in the crossfire of his well-documented drug addictions and violence? An elderly grandfather who has the means Mr. Doneghy needs to get his high? I am left with questions that deeply trouble me. If Mr. Doneghy is paroled, given the knowledge I have, should I be worried about my own safety, the safety of my children, my co-workers, and my family? The answer is yes. Given Mr. Doneghy's history for following through on violent promises, coupled with his refusal to take responsibility for this situation, I need to be concerned. He no longer has the means to buy his endless drug supply. He will have to work for them. He will have to commit violent crimes to obtain the illicit substances that he views as the most precious things in life. Once he reoffends, he will come back to my facility, and I will once again have to place my emotional well-being on hold to deal with Mr. Doneghy's constant barrage of violence and threats. I am here today to respectfully request that you do not allow Mr. Doneghy the opportunity to destroy anyone else's life. Given the years of experience I have with his character and desire to do harm, I cannot recommend that you parole Mr. Doneghy. The public, my family, and brothers in blue will be at great risk if Glenn Ray and Doneghy is let go free.
Margaret Derman's mother. I'm going to read this because it's settled. I'll just write it down. I'm Margaret Derman, mother of a murdered child. Brian Derman, at the hands of Glenn Doneghy, was murdered. My purpose is to tell you, the parole board, how this has affected me. It has broken my heart and given me a life sentence grieving my son. He was a good son, husband, father, brother, nephew, friend, and law enforcement officer. All of this to never be again this side of heaven. My second purpose is to ask that Glenn Doneghy not be paroled. He received 20 years compared to our life sentence. That's a short time. He will be out when he is 47. Brian will be 47. Brian will never be 47 on this earth. He will miss his child growing up, ball games, son's graduation, weddings, and grandchildren. So for Glenn Doneghy to be paroled in 3.5 years is like spitting in their face. Also, to have to attend this every few years, if you decide not to parole him now, is another stab in the wound of our grief. But if that is to be, we will be here in force. The reason for this ridiculous 3.5 years is money. And I'm going to let some of my anger show. Our state's catch and release laws allowed him not to be sentenced to murder. So I ask you, how much is my child's life worth? Glenn Doneghy is a career criminal. Just look at his past records. He only got 10 years for murdering my son because of laws. He got 10 years for leaving Brian in the street to die. 10 for other crimes that he did after killing Brian and running from the police. But that's not all. As you've heard before, he was arrested many other times, accused of rape, drugs, dealing drugs, contributing to prostitution, and that's not all. For some of these, he was given probation, thanks to catch and release, only to be arrested again and again, probated, released, arrested again, on and on. Probation did not work. The murderer is a career criminal. Do not think if he has been rehabilitated in 3.5 years. This is beyond reason. He has never shown remorse to us, Brian's family. Will we feel safe when he is released? No. I will feel the need to legally arm myself because he has threatened our family many times. I will feel the need to arm myself. If he decides to come after my family, I would die before I ever let him harm my family again. My question to the parole board is, do you want this career criminal released to harm your child, your family, friend, or some other unsuspecting victim? For me and everyone I know, losing a child is a high price to pay. This has taken a toll on my family, and we now remember Brian only the good times we had with Brian. Then this comes up. Please do not release Glenn Doneghy. He was a murderer and a career criminal. Thank you.